across to Washington, D.C. and speak to William Lawrence, Professor of Political Science and International Affairs at the American University. William, good to have you on the programme again. Thanks for joining us. Is this a risky strategy from Donald Trump, direct talks with Hamas?
Yes, on several levels. First of all, it's a violation of U.S. law, and not that that's really what's driving the Trump administration. I mean, there are over 100 lawsuits against the Trump administration for all kinds of things going on, but he is violating U.S. law and defying the pro-Israel lobby that wants all of these organizations to be unable to be negotiated with by the United States, to put more leverage in their hands. So, you know, for all of his rhetoric and threats, Trump is not only defying law, he's defying the Israelis and doesn't necessarily hold them in high opinion. I think it's hard to square that circle for a lot of people watching Donald Trump, that he both doesn't hold Netanyahu and the Israeli right in high regard, nor does he hold their opponents in high regard. And he wants this ceasefire to continue more than he really cares about anybody's feelings. And so that leads people sort of all over the map on assessing what Trump is doing and why he's doing it. But if there's any chance that we're going to get to phase 2 of the ceasefire, it rests more in Trump's hands and how he forces Netanyahu's hand than it does on any other factor.
And he's also tried to force Hamas's hand by levelling more threats at them. Essentially, you know, let's do the talks or I'll release, you know, all sorts of hell onto you, words to that effect. I mean, he's done this before. Donald Trump delivered an ultimatum. And the danger with that is that once you deliver an ultimatum, you have to deliver. And Hamas called his bluff before, and there was no what else.
Yeah, it's funny how Trump always maligned Obama and others for their red lines that they didn't follow up on, whereas Trump often doesn't follow up on his red lines. But Trump's predictable unpredictability is his sort of ace card here, because he always pushes envelopes by being predictably unpredictable, and that confuses both his allies and his foes in these situations of negotiation. You know, some people think it's very highly strategic and sort of three-level chess. I think it's more just Trump's instincts. And Trump's instincts are such that he just defies everybody, maligns everybody, attacks everybody, responds to whoever sort of sucks up to him and does what he wants, and often gets what he wants because he's not playing by the rules. And so it's very unfamiliar for, you know, foreign policy experts like myself and for people who analyze, you know, negotiations to really follow what Trump's doing. But ultimately, he wants what he wants, and he's going to try to do all he can to get it. And sometimes that works in international negotiations.
Yes, but this sort of freewheeling attitude to foreign policy with little regard for the risks or the consequences, I mean, one wonders where it will go. And what public opinion is behind him regarding the Middle East right now? I understand that a recent poll has suggested that support for Israel, US support for Israel, is at an all-time low.
So there's two big downsides to Trump's approach. And again, as you can probably tell, I'm not a big fan of Trump at all, but I do like when good things happen, things like ceasefires. But there's two downsides to this, which are automatic. Number one, people dislike Trump while he's doing it and dislike the way he talks about people and treats them on both sides of this. And that means an unsustainable sort of context for things. And Trump's not about sustainable ceasefires. So when he says he wants the ceasefire in phase 2, he's still not supporting a Palestinian state or a path towards it. He's still very confused about what the future of Palestinian state might look like. And so he's not about finding sustainable solutions. It's just about sort of forcing his will on the moment. And that's not sustainable. So all of those things will create negative expected or unexpected outcomes that he doesn't want. But he does force his will on the situation. And that's why, you know, Trump was able to force through Biden's peace plan that Biden wasn't able to force through. And that thrusts it into the situation we're in, where the Israelis want to just continue phase 1 ad infinitum without the Americans doing much else. And Trump wants to force things into phase 2 without really understanding what phase 3 is all about. You know, Trump never looked closely at the details of the ceasefire plan. He just said, make it happen. And that's why Biden's plan is the one, the May 27th plan that came to fruition here. But, you know, one thing's for sure. things aren't going to get easier. And just bullheaded, stubborn approaches only go so far. So, we may get into phase two, but until deeper thinkers get involved in the conversation, we won't have sustainable outcomes.
Yes, and if there is a sustainable outcome, no doubt Donald Trump will take credit for that. William, we thank you very much indeed for joining us. Appreciate you coming on.